The air in the arena was so unnaturally still that it felt like the entire building was holding its breath, an eerie quiet that didn't belong in the world of WWE where noise is a living, breathing part of the spectacle, and in that silence you could almost hear the pulse of thousands of fans pounding in anxious unison, their eyes glued to the curtain, and then he emerged, Triple H. Not with the confident swagger or calculating smirk that had defined his decades in the business, but with a heavy, almost hollow expression that told every soul present and every viewer watching at home that something was deeply, devastatingly wrong, a feeling that seemed to seep into the bones before he even said a word, and for 20 long, crushing seconds he didn't, simply staring down at the microphone in his hand as though speaking would turn some unthinkable nightmare into reality, until his voice finally cracked and he forced out the words that shattered the room. Rey Mysterio had suffered a heart attack, and the gasps that followed were so loud they seemed to echo, with audible cries from the front rows, because it wasn't just what he said, it was the way he said it, the pain etched into every line of his face. The rawness of Paul Levesque, the man replacing the invincibility of Triple H, the character. And in that moment he wasn't the cerebral assassin, he was a friend terrified for another's life, a man holding back the tidal wave of emotion threatening to consume him as his hand trembled around the mic and he explained that this was no storyline, no hype for a match, no scripted twist. Rey was in the hospital and his condition was bad. The cameras panning to the crowd revealing mothers clutching children tighter, men wiping their eyes, people with their hands over their mouths in disbelief. And then came the part that made the pit in everyone's stomach deepen, when Triple H's eyes glistened and he said he had been there when Rey was rushed in, had seen the fear in his family's eyes, and would never forget it, describing Rey not just as a superstar but as a husband, a father, and his friend. Before his tone darkened with something sharper, something angrier, as he revealed that Rey hadn't even been supposed to wrestle that night, that he had told officials he wasn't feeling well, yet someone had pushed him to go out there anyway, the crowd exploding in shock and fury, demanding to know who, while Triple H promised there would be consequences for whoever decided Rey's health was expendable, swearing it didn't matter if it was an executive, a producer, or a top star, they'd be finished, and just as the tension reached boiling point the Tron lit up with grainy security footage from that night showing Rey in obvious distress backstage, trying to wave off a shadowy figure urging him toward the entrance, the sight drawing a roar of outrage from the fans and a look of pure, murderous resolve from Triple H as he ordered that person to be found immediately. The locker room itself plunged into an eerie hush as news spread, with veterans and rookies alike standing together in shock while Dominic Mysterio, conspicuously absent, paced alone in a deserted hallway, pale and hollow-eyed under his hoodie, the guilt of his fractured relationship with his father gnawing at him, while in another part of the building Triple H emerged from a tense call with Rey's doctors to tell the assembled roster that Rey was in critical condition after a massive heart attack. The words breaking the room into gasps and tears, his voice shaking as he reminded them of Rey's decades of sacrifice for the fans and the business, a sacrifice that had now left him fighting for survival. The news exploding online within minutes as #PrayForRey trended worldwide, with fans sharing his greatest moments and fellow wrestlers posting emotional tributes, but the outpouring of love was soured by the cold reality that behind the scenes there were still corporate conversations about ratings and who might benefit from Rey's absence, an attitude that had fans seething, especially when Triple H revealed that Rey had been experiencing chest discomfort for weeks but had kept it quiet to avoid derailing storylines, a selflessness that had almost cost him his life, raising uncomfortable questions about how Rey's medical team could have missed it and why no one stopped him from going to the ring. And then Dominic appeared, stripped of his on-screen arrogance, his voice cracking as he admitted he just wanted his dad to come home. The crowd's hostility toward him melting into sympathy as Triple H placed a reassuring arm around him and vowed to give Rey the best care and all the time he needed. but also warning that there was a real chance Rey might never wrestle again, a gasp rippling through the arena at the thought that the man who had inspired millions and carried Lucha Libre on his back for decades could be forced into retirement by his own failing heart. And just when the atmosphere could not grow heavier, Triple H began to speak again, about to reveal something so personal and so devastating that it would leave the entire wrestling world speechless.